Okay, let's do the 4 limitless contemplations. Okay. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and from creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semchen damje dewatang dewe jutang den pa jutik, dungal tang dungal chichutang trawa jutik, Dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindra wajichik nearing chaktang ni tandrawe tangnum chempola ne pajuchik. So it's really lovely to be back again, gathered all together. It's really nice. And I've got to say, I really miss teaching. When I'm not teaching, I'm not happy at all. Okay, so you're lucky you've got me probably for a while at any rate, because I miss it. I think teaching is my meditation. I think it's my most important meditation. So I really love to do it. So tonight we're going to do an evening to experience and understand meditation. And what I want to do tonight is I want to do a very simple talk on understanding some truths about meditation, which I hope will help all of you in your meditation. And those that haven't done meditation, I hope it'll help you too. Okay. And then let's experience the different types of meditation so that everyone can find something that might be useful or helpful to them. And I've given many sessions on meditation. They're now all being put onto playlists of the YouTubes, which Bernice and Edith are doing very beautifully. So you'll be able to get everything together. I know a few of you complained. In a little while, they all be on the playlists. So you can go back for a lot of the talks on meditation. And I had like a thick amount of notes like that. I mean, I've got a thick amount of everything, which I have to actually dispose of. But tonight, I just want to say things from my heart about it. And I was thinking back in my life, and I thought, how did I start meditating? Well, I decided sometime many years ago that I would go to Transcendental Meditation, TM. That's how I actually started meditating long before I was on a Buddhist path. And I went, and they make it very interesting because you go and then they give you this mantra thing that you've got to say all the time. And then you're told you've got to meditate 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And me being very dedicated and devoted, I did the 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. But when I was thinking back on it, I thought, how did I feel? First of all, I really went because I have millions and trillions of thoughts. And, I really believed that to meditate, you have to get rid of thoughts. First misconception for everybody. You don't have to get rid of thoughts. You have to get rid of your attachment and view of thoughts. That's all. But I remember thinking when I started doing it, I found a little room, and my children were very young then. And I remember thinking, I was really expecting transcendental things to happen. I thought you'd go somewhere into a beautiful space, and that would be such a lovely thing to do. I really did. And I remember after weeks of meditating, I thought, this is so boring. I mean, there's got to be more to it than this. And I'm just telling you my own experience so that when people go through that with the meditation, I don't feel like meditating, well, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes or whatever the case is, that you think twice, because I really was disappointed in the whole idea of meditation. And I think a lot of people are disappointed when they do meditation and then they say to me, I've got so many thoughts, I can't empty my mind. Who ever taught that you had to empty your mind? No one ever taught that. because the real meditation is very, very interesting. And the trouble with all the thousands of teachings on meditation techniques and skills in this modern era is the question we have to ask is, what are we trying to achieve? Now, I've been meditating for many years, Buddhist meditations, but I've got to say to you that I think of all the things I do, the actual meditation, I'm probably the worst meditator of all. That's why I can tell you about it, because if you're struggling with your meditation, then really it's important for you to understand this, that there's no such a thing as a good or a bad meditator, okay? There really isn't. And in this modern era, we've got to ask the question, what are we trying to achieve? In actual fact, there is nothing broken down to no thing to achieve, because the word achievement suggests a goal we are trying to reach. Actually, the goal is already inside us. So we are not trying to get it, it's a state within. And we don't have to do anything or go anywhere or even sit for long periods of time to get there. We're already there. We just have to realize that we are already there. We need to wake up to that fact without being distracted. That's my most important point tonight. That mostly it's not about thoughts, it's not about how long you sit, it's not about how many retreats you go to, it's about not being distracted. Now, in our modern world, it's really very difficult not to be distracted, because this is happening, that's happening, this happening, that's happening. And it's a very, very interesting thing, because the thoughts and feelings must not distract us. They can be there. We can be aware of them, but we do not want to fixate and go off with them. That's the training in the meditation. And for me, Buddhism, if you take ism out of Buddhism, it must be practiced morning, noon, and night. Even Kathy, in the chaos of where you saw me with all those little boys, grandchildren in London now, the Buddhism must fit in the world that we live in, not be something separated from the world that takes us out of this world into some divine dimension. That's not what it's about. But maybe at first, when people start to meditate, maybe they have to just take little bouts out of their daily life just to start waking up. But I want you to remember two things. One, James Lowe says that in the beginning of meditation, and all of you might, even though a lot of you have been meditating for a long time, maybe there are lots of things you can learn to do differently anyway, like I learn all the time when I study and read and see what the different masters have got to say. But the two things are that James Lowe, who I love to listen to on meditation, he says, when you go and you sit in a special place for your meditation, that's like putting your little training wheels on your back. You know, when you can't ride a bike, you put two little training wheels. He said, those are the training wheels, and we probably need them in the beginning. But I want you to become aware that when we do the practice, the deity practices, which is no external practice, it's about developing what we've got inside, that is also called in Buddhism meditation. The whole practice is called meditation. So what I've come to understand for myself is, and then I'm coming on to different levels of what people talk about meditation, but what I've come to understand for myself is, I never liked to sit in shamatha meditation, calm abiding. Okay, I never liked that because I've got that active mind that likes to be doing. And eventually I found practices in which I could be totally in meditation without sitting with calm abiding. But the calm abiding is very, very important in the beginning, because if you have a turmoiled mind like this that's going out, Now I've got to go to the supermarket tomorrow, and I've got this appointment with so-and-so, and I've got that with this one, and that with that one. You can't see the mind. It's not that those things are bad. It's just that they distract you all the time. You aren't able to focus. And that is what we are learning to do, to focus in the chaos, if we are in chaos, to focus in the quiet, if we are in the quiet. Doesn't really matter. We're learning to be non-distracted. So if you watch people, even in these, when I've been at Sammy Ling meditating or Sherab Ling meditating in these big shrine rooms with all these monks and everything, if a dog suddenly barks, you watch everybody. They go like that to the dog, okay, to watch it. So you see all the heads going, or someone faints or something, everybody's head goes there. Now that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If you are in awareness, it doesn't matter. But our awareness slips away all the time. And then we get into whatever's happening. It doesn't matter what's happening, as long as you are aware all the time. Okay, eventually, when you get on with your meditation, Dzogchen practitioners, which is maybe the highest level of practice that there is in Buddhism, and I love it so much, but Dzogchen practitioners call meditation non-meditation. Now, it's such a funny word, because non-meditation sounds like you don't have to meditate, and that's the truth. But you also don't have to be in distraction, and you don't have to be unfocused, though you're in non-meditation. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, one of our really great Dzogchen masters, says that the everyday practice, and we're going to practice some here tonight, the everyday practice of non-meditation is just everyday life itself, our daily activities. That's what non-meditation is. But what is very important, and this is what we can't do, the essence of non-meditation is uninterrupted, intrinsic awareness. Uninterrupted, intrinsic awareness. We'll talk about it. It's called non-meditation because it entails no mental practice, no action, okay, no mental practice, no action whatsoever, just clarity like the radiance of the sun. Now we can do this in our daily life, and that's what Thupten taught, which we'll come back to some of his ideas on it, but that's what we're talking about in our daily life. Like you're in an office, and there are 1,000 million things going on at the same time, and people are emailing you, and the phone's ringing. And in between, you just take one moment to remember who you are. Just one moment to become intrinsic awareness. I know what is happening. So when you pick up that phone call, you are present and aware. That's the most important thing, because 90% of the time that you talk to somebody, I know I complain all the time to people, you're not listening. You there, your body's there, but your mind is elsewhere. I'm telling you something, and I can see you are not listening to me. Your mind is elsewhere, distracted, thinking about all the things you've got to do today. So you're never present. Now, I just want to tell you two things. Trale Jumpcon, in his book, The Actuality of Being. And I'm going to teach you quite a lot of things from this book, because he's got some sections on how you integrate body, speech, and mind with meditation practices. Now, some of you might love that. We won't get onto that tonight. It'll take a while, but we can get onto it next time maybe. But the practices to integrate everything in your own being. So what he says is, meditation is related with not getting distracted and not becoming vulnerable and getting subjected to the states of mind of depression or elation, either one. That doesn't mean you can't be depressed or elated because something's happening in your life that's making you sad or irritated or whatever the case is. You can be there. But whatever we experience is part of the meditation. In Dzogchen, one does not need to experience, he says, the calmness of the mind to be in meditation. Disturbed or at ease, we are part of the meditation. Both are part of the meditation. The meditation just brings forward to our attention what is latently already there. Now, I just want to read you this little story because it's quite funny. And when you ask me also of what is uninterrupted intrinsic awareness, okay, it's knowing. Just think of that word, knowing. Because Buddhas know everything about everything. It's knowing what is going on. Yesterday, when I was teaching bereavement, I said that intrinsic awareness is so important for your grief. And those of you that are going through loss or grief, please go to that. I think it's already been uploaded on YouTube, but it's so important. Oh, good. I'm pleased, Sean, that you're there. But Rigpa, or clear light, is the primordial, pure, pristine awareness that is at once intelligent, cognizant, radiant, and always awake. It's the true nature of all things, non-definable, pure, non-dual awareness. Now, let me just tell you the story. I'll try and make it short. It's a long story, but it tells everything I'm trying to say. There's a story about going astray in shamatha. Shamatha we're going to do just now is calm abiding. Why do we do calm abiding? Only for one reason, not to stay in calm abiding. That is never going to get us enlightened, and we want to be enlightened. We do shamatha so that the water is still, so that we can look into it and do it. But that is not the object of the meditation in any way or any form. So this is a story. A Lama from Eastern Tibetan province of Golok came to see the great Jamkon Kongtrul Lodro Taye. The Lama told Jamkon Rinpoche that he'd stayed in a retreat hut meditating for 9 or 10 years. My practice is quite good now. At times, I have a good degree of clairvoyance, he said. Whenever I place my attention on something, it remains unshakable. I feel so quiet and serene. I experience a state totally without thoughts and concepts. During long stretches of time, I experience nothing but bliss, clarity, and non-thought. I would say that my meditation has been rather successful, he tells this great Lama. The Lama replies, "Oh, what a pity." Nothing else. Oh, what a pity. Okay. The meditator left slightly downcast, only to return the next morning. Honestly, Rinpoche, my practice of samadhi, that's the calm abiding, is good. I've managed to equalize all mental states of pleasure and pain. The 3 poisons of anger, desire, and dullness have no real hold over me anymore. After meditating for 9 years, I would think that this level is quite good. Oh, what a pity, retorted Jamkon Kongtrul. The meditator thought, he's reputed to be an eminent master beyond jealousy, but it sounds to me if he's slightly jealous of me. I wonder. He then said, I came to ask you about the nature of mine because of your great reputation. My meditation during the day is fine. I'm not asking about that at all. I'm quite satisfied. What I want to ask about is how to practice during the night. That's when I experience some difficulty. Jamkon Kongtrul said, oh, what a pity. Okay, the story goes on for quite a long time like that. And he thought, he's envious of me. And he said, and I can see into the future. I have clairvoyance. And Jamkon Kongtrul said, oh, what a pity. Anyway, when he left to go into his meditation hut, this meditator really began to doubt himself, because after some days he returned. I'm going back to my retreat, Rinpoche. What should I do now? So Rinpoche told him straight away, don't meditate anymore. Okay, interesting. Don't meditate anymore. He said, from today on, give up meditating. If you want to follow my advice, then go home and stay in retreat for 3 years, but without meditating even the slightest. Do not cultivate the state of stillness even in the slightest. The meditator thought, what's he saying? I wonder why. What does it mean? On the other hand, he is a great master. I'll try and see what happens. All right, Rinpoche, he says, and he goes back to his hut. When back in retreat, he had quite a hard time trying not to meditate. Every time he simply let be without the attempt to meditate, he always found himself meditating again. Later, he said, that first half year was so difficult. The second year was somewhat better. At that point, he found that in the act of meditating, he had simply been keeping his mind busy. Now he understood what Jamgon Kongtrul meant by saying, do not meditate. The third year, he reached true non-meditation, leaving deliberate cultivation totally behind. He discovered a state utterly free from doing and meditating by simply leaving awareness exactly as it naturally is. At that point, nothing spectacular took place in his practice, no special clairvoyance either. Moreover, all his bliss, clarity, and non-thought, at which he vanished. Now my meditation practice is totally lost. I better go back and get back some more advice. Returning and relating his experience, Rinpoche replied, right on, right on. These 3 years made your meditation successful. Right on. You don't need to meditate by deliberately keeping something in mind, but also don't be distracted. Now that story, is very, very important, because, he did reach a level of high realization, because I told you all in a little while ago, when I got to my long retreat in India, the minute Taisitu Rinpoche looked at me, and the minute I asked, okay, what should I do? He said, shamatha. I said, but Rinpoche, I don't like doing shamatha, just sitting for hours and hours and hours. He said, shamatha. So I did. I'm very obedient in that way. And I did that shamatha. I did it. I sometimes put pieces of white sheets of paper on my table in front of me, and I just sat and I just did nothing, and I was looking into space and looking into space. I thought I wasn't getting anywhere or doing anything, but when I came back to him, because I'd been left the monastery and come back, and when I came back to him after 6 weeks of shamatha meditation, he said, now we'll talk. What do you want? And then he gave me a practice, a much more active practice, which really suited my mind and changed me. So what I'm trying to say to you is, we don't strive for such a state. Striving is a neurosis which only conditions us to obstruct the free flow of the mind, okay? Which only conditions us all the time. When we do non-meditation, it's a form of meditation that cannot be contrived. It is natural and spontaneous. Whereas meditation is governed, how we usually do it, by a series of instructions imposed by the rational mind, okay? It imposes on you. And what we've got to understand, that if we're practicing a discipline with a specific goal, having a starting point and an end, non-meditation has no beginning and no end. It happens over a full period of 24 hours, including sleeping. Now, some of you may go, yay, I don't have to go and sit and meditate anymore. I wouldn't advise that, but I would advise you to do something free. I think that James Lowe does it beautifully. He said to his many hundreds of people that were listening to him on Zoom. He said, you know, when I was a teenager, I inherited my brother's skating boots, and there used to be ice in Scotland. He said, so I said to my brother, how do I skate? And my brother said, I don't know, just skate. So he said, so I put the boots on and I went along the ice. And I fell over, and I fell over, and I fell over. I didn't know how to meditate. Nobody told me anything. He said, and I skated and I skated, tried, and people were just passing me like this. He said, it was unbelievable. He said, and I couldn't skate, and I didn't know what I should do, you know, in order to really skate. He said, and then one day, I just started skating. He said, I wasn't falling over anymore. I just started skating. And he said, suddenly, I was just skating over the ice. He said, but if anybody asked me, how did you learn to skate? What should I do? He says, I don't know. Just skate. Just be present. Fall when you fall. Get up when you can. Keep trying all the time, but just skate. He said, the skating, don't even be aware that there's a skater. Just go on the ice. I thought so useful to have, you know, that you just go on the ice. Okay. And he also said he skated into freedom. He didn't need techniques. And he was teaching on Virupa's instruction, and Virupa was a great master, and that was his instruction. He said meditation is the same as that. No project of meditation, just meditation flowing through one. No trying hard, no mental creations. He says, at first you need meditation instructions, but then there's no need. He said, meditation instructions are like a bridge to take you to where you're going. Now, I think it's very, very exciting, that I really, really do, because I think that I'm trying to say tonight that especially for a lot of you who do meditation, who are struggling, and we're going to do it in just 5 minutes, we're going to do a lot of different meditation. But what I want to say to you is, there's got to be something flowing through you, that intrinsic awareness. You know, when I'm teaching, I know I always prepare teaching so that it's different, so that it's interesting, bringing in different things. But when I'm teaching, I actually lose the awareness of a teacher, and that what I'm trying to get across flows through me. That's what we're trying to do. So it doesn't matter if you're a very busy person and you're doing 1,000,001 things, just to be present right now, in this moment, in the middle of my office, where everything is chaotic. I am here with absolute knowing. Because think about it, through your day, not once did you know that you were in your office. You were in your office, you were doing this and that and that and this and this and that. But not once did you say, oh, I'm here. The past is gone, the future hasn't been made, and here I am. Sometimes even just looking around, like I looked at you tonight and I thought, I'm so lucky to have all of you. What a great feeling in me. It's not me that's lucky. It's the circumstances that work through your intrinsic awareness, uninterrupted, that we're trying to get to. And I want you to become totally aware all the time, being in a state of knowing what is happening right now without analysis, intellect, judgment, just being present and aware every moment of every day and night. And this is what makes us function in a special way in this world, this material, mundane world of suffering sentient beings. When you know and you are aware, not when you're thinking, I'm Melanie and I'm helping this person. That's gone in the non-meditation. It's you being present and allowing an intrinsic awareness to flow through you, so the other person feels you are in touch. Not that you are sitting and making an assessment. Look at this person. They're in such a bad way. Look how they react. Why do you do such bad work to a worker at work? None of that. Just being totally aware makes you know. Now, those of you who knew Akong Rinpoche, he was in that state 24/7. He didn't even need to sleep because his body was always rested. I think if he had 2 hours sleep a night, Thupten told me, was a lot. Okay, because at night, late at night, he was doing all his work in Tibet because it was a different time zone and everything. But he was in touch. He said very little words. But when Rinpoche said something to you, you never, ever thought it was, what's he saying that for? You actually knew he was in touch, both with his intrinsic awareness and yours. And so we need to start with some main meditation practices tonight. But for me, let's keep in mind what I am discussing and what I've said about the non-meditation, because it's so important. So let's start. But anybody want to say anything, ask anything, comment? I'm very happy to hear your voices. Excuse my...
I remember, I think it was Rob, or I think Rob was saying that Akong Rinpoche once said that a lot of Westerners are sitting and meditating, but they're sitting and they're thinking they're meditating.
Yeah, exactly. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean when they say that, we misinterpret that. We think, oh, I've got to get rid of these thoughts. How am I going to get rid of these thoughts? I know I've been there, down there, got the t-shirt. Okay. How am I going to get rid of thoughts? You don't get rid of thoughts or feelings, because thoughts and feelings are the same nature as intrinsic awareness. But if you hook up to them, if you fixate on them, if you absolutely hold on to them, then it becomes thinking and not being aware. There's nothing to hold on to, because if you watch those thoughts, they just dissolve into empty space. It's unbelievable that it really, really works when you're using that Rigpa, that uninterrupted intrinsic awareness. And you stop fighting against things. Like so many people, like I was looking at these poor parents of these hostages who got killed, this week and everything. And a couple of them came on. And I mean, I just sit there and I just weep. What else can I say? It must be the most terrible thing to wait for your child for a year, and then the child's suddenly gone and you've got to deal with this. But what we have to understand is that the dealing with that is a completely different story when it is dealt with logic, intellect, conditioning, judgment, all of that. Why am I in that situation? Or uninterrupted intrinsic awareness. I feel just so devastated that I don't even know what to do with myself. And then I begin to look at that devastation. I'm sitting. I certainly can't sit in long meditation and get rid of it. It's there. So I look at it and I embrace it. The intrinsic awareness is seeing it for what it is. It turns into wisdom in the end. But right now, it's not getting rid of that. It's being absolutely in touch with it. And when you are absolutely in touch with it, it dissolves of its own accord. There's no griever and grief. They just unite. And you feel like you're in a lump. You feel like you're in a hump. Like in my morning group, I said, I'm going to teach them something from Mark Epstein's book. He says, going to pieces without falling apart. That's an interesting thing. Going to pieces without falling apart. Such an interesting thing. How do you go to pieces? You just are present with whatever is there. So now when we do the shamatha, which we'll start to do now, I just want you to take this with you in your minds and watch how your mind goes out. Watch how your mind picks up the fixations that you've got. And as soon as you are aware of that, you open the hand and you let it go. You let it be, not let it go because there was nothing to let go of. You let it be. Any other comments or questions? So important, this. I can't tell you how many years it's taken me to actually begin to understand this, and not to be able to do it, just to begin to understand it. Begin. I'm at the beginning. Okay. Anyone want to ask or say, please, Viam?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Mel. I was just, listening to what you're talking about, the shamatha, and like my experience and how it's also shifted for me. What like more of a Vajrayana type of shamatha actually, but just sitting and what I think most people think is meditation, the mindfulness is just following the breath. Just automatically, we're so stressed, and with all the simulation we have got going in our Western lives, that just sitting down and just slowly breathing in and out, like, releases a bit of that oxytocin, and you do a bit of, and then you think meditation works. It's actually just a physical response. It's just a chemical being secreted in your mind. Your body just feels a bit relaxed, and then you think, oh, I'm spiritual, but like you say, it doesn't do anything to like, for me, like when things really started shifting was contemplation, and bringing that into those sessions, and then also like this, hearing the Dharma, like, and then I've read when masters say in the beginning stages it's actually more important to hear the pure Dharma and to contemplate the topics than to just sit there for like 2 hours. That's not going to help you at all, and then those type of things you were saying, like to start to put yourself in places where you start to, like, learn about emptiness and what those type of things mean, and try to employ it, or like, like in your sessions.
I know what you're saying.
And then it becomes more like practical, experience for yourself, like that it actually works, versus just like I feel good, and because that can also become like what a selfish type of thing, I think, like a,
Feel good is absolutely irrelevant.
yeah.
I mean, to feel good is irrelevant because it doesn't last, it's impermanent. And if you feel good, it's fine. And if you feel terrible, it's fine too. Because the point is, the intrinsic awareness knows. It knows what you're going through is the right experience for you. And it knows with a difference to the human logic, which says, why am I going through this? And why can't I feel better about things? But let's start, everybody. Okay, let's start doing it, because we're going to, I just want to say one thing, that shamatha, which is calm abiding, which is when you still the mind, okay, which is important in the beginning. As I said to you, Tasitu made me do it until he could see that my mind was calm and I would be able to do the practices he was going to give me. So it's important. But Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche teaches all the time. He says, if you just do shamatha, it's useless. It'll give you calmness in your life, but nothing else, as you saying there, Viam, nothing else. You've got to do shamatha with vipassana, looking into the mind. Shamatha, being present and still, vipassana, looking into the mind, called insight training. The two must go together. And at the highest level, Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche says they are extraordinary, shamatha and vipassana. So I'm going to give you the ordinary one and the extraordinary one, because I think it's really, really important. But I think what I'm saying has been very, very important. And Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche says you cannot become enlightened or be a Buddha without the use of both. If you just do shamatha, it's an absolutely useless exercise in the end. Calms you, that's good. I suppose it calms you a lot, but we'll use his techniques. Ordinary shamatha cannot cause you to be enlightened, ever, ever. And those of you that struggle with meditation, do you not find all the things in non-meditation quite exciting and quite divine to actually do? Because I think that they to do nothing, but not seeing is the supreme sight and not finding is the supreme find. So let's start. Let's start with getting into your meditation posture. Okay, now I'm going to just correct the posture tonight, but I'm going to say again that it doesn't matter whether you're doing it sitting in the posture. In the beginning, the posture helps the process of the intrinsic awareness. That's why it's important. But later, you know, Tulku Urchin says, walk around, use your hands, roll your eyes around, but keep in that state. It's difficult for us in the beginning. But the posture is very, very important because we have two energies, one going down and one going up. And these energies are very important when you're trying to get your mental activity really related in a certain way. And we've got 72,000 channels, but 3 main channels in our subtle body. So let's just look when we sit in the proper body posture. So your one leg is in front of the other. It's always easy if you sit on a cushion and your knees are lower than you on a cushion. Okay, that's very important because when you try and sit on a flat surface, so I always sit with a few cushions under my bum, right at the end of the cushion, so that your knees are facing down and you don't cross them like you cross legs. You cross them one in front of the other. Okay, that's very important. Now, when you actually do that, we are able to bring that downward flowing energy into the central channel when you sit in that correct posture. I know that some people really find it difficult to sit in cross-leg. Well, that's unfortunate, but it does subdue all the emotions as well, Lama Yeshe says. When we put our hands, one on top, right on top of left, with the thumbs touching on our lap like that, that also brings the water wind energy into the central channel, and that's connected with all our anger and all our hectic stuff that we have within us. So the posture of the hands helps correct that energy. Straightening up the arms and the shoulders will bring the earth wind energy into the central channel, and that helps us to overcome all the truth that we're ignoring, the ignorance and delusion that we do. When you do the throat and the neck, the throat must be slightly tucked in, not like that and not like that, just a little bit tucked in, okay? And the neck absolutely straight, you're like that, and that brings the fire wind energy connected with our desires into the central channel, which helps us reduce it completely, okay? And then focusing our eyes can be looking straight. And when you get to the non-meditation, I always lift my eyes up. I like to look up into the sky. I usually sit where I can see the sky because my shrine room's open to the sky. So you can do that, but your eyes are never fully closed. You are not blissing out. You are tuning in, not blissing out. That's the real purpose of meditation, not what I thought meditation was in the beginning, okay? And also the tongue should go at the top of the palate when you're sitting and meditating, okay? And that helps the wind energy come into the central channel, which takes away all our pride and all our arrogance and everything else. So sit relaxed in this posture with all those factors. It's very important in the beginning. But as I've said, once you've done this a lot, which a lot of you have, It doesn't matter whether you do. Sometimes when my legs are really tired and I've had a long day, I'll just sit any old how when I'm sitting, when I do meditation. It doesn't really matter, but in the beginning, it's very, very useful. Now let's do the 9 breaths. It's very important when you come into meditation. It's nice in the beginning if you can have a little spot where you come all the time to meditate, because it begins to be filled with your energy. So when you've got a spot where you can meditate, that's really good. And it's really good to start with just, 3 prostrations. You can do the body, the body, the speech, and the mind. And you just you're not kneeling to any being. You're just paying homage and taking refuge in that intrinsic awareness of your Buddha nature. And it's also nice, if you will take it a little further, just to say, what I'm doing tonight or what I'm doing this morning is to benefit all beings. And then you don't have to do the breath a million times, but periodically do the breath, because the breath clears the 3 main channels. This is the main channel, which is blue, okay? In men, in women, this channel going down on the side, okay, that channel is what we call the karmic energy runs into that channel. The non-wisdom energy runs, and men, it's in your right side, with opposite for men and women. And then in women, your right side is where the wisdom energy flows, but it's not the non-dualistic energy. The non-dualistic energy, which flows in your central channel, is neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong. It just is. So let's start with the breathing. So you take these thumbs and fingers, this thumb, and the ring fingers. You take both of those, right? And you put, at the base you put it. And then you take those 2 fingers, so you take it, like that, and then put your 2 fingers on your nose, okay? So for women, okay, you breathe in through your right nostril, you release it, out through your left nostril. For men, the opposite. You breathe in through your right nostril, you let it go, and out through your left nostril. Good. So what you're doing is you're cleaning everything in the channels, and then you do the other way. So you just do 3 breaths like that. I always do it before I go to sleep. Everybody do those 3 breaths. Women starting with exhaling out of the left nostril, men exhaling out of the right nostril. Then the opposite way to clean the other channel. And then put your hands back when you've done those, and you just inhale through the nostrils, both, and exhale through the nostrils. 3 of those. So that's 9 breaths. That, when you've done the 9 breaths, I always do it before I go to bed at night. And it really is a very good exercise to clear the channels and to bring the energy, the posture into the central channel, only for the beginning, okay? But that's very, very good. So let's start with the shamatha meditation after the breath. Okay, so we're going to do shamatha with a support, which is usually the breath. If you don't like breathing, you can use anything for support. You can use a Buddha, you can use a rock, you can use anything you like. But in the shamatha with support, you start having beautiful deep breath in through the nostrils, out through the mouth. Make it natural, in and out. just calming everything. You've already done the other breath. So you just in to the count of 3 or 4, out to the count of 3 or 4. In and out, and in and out. And you keep the focus of the breath all the time. Second point, notice where your mind is. So as you're breathing in and out, the second point, notice where your mind is. Is it thinking about the job you didn't get done today? Is it thinking about how boring the lecture is? Is it analyzing? Is it thinking about the fight you had with someone today? Just notice where your mind is. That's point number 2. Point number 3, as soon as you notice that your mind has gone out after a thought, you bring it back to the breath. So 3 points. Breathe, notice, bring return. So just do that for a few minutes, short periods, many times a day. So if you're in your office, you sit down on your chair, you just start breathing. You don't have to do the 9 breaths or the posture. You just breathe in and out. You notice the mind, you bring it back. You're very tired because it is night. We're going to do short meditations. And just acknowledge that you're tired, notice, and bring it back to the breath. Just notice everything that is happening. So this is your shamatha practice several times a day. Do it in the office for 1 minute. Do it at the airport when you're standing in a queue for 1 minute. Do it at the robot when you're waiting. Do it in any queue that you're in. Instead of thinking, oh, this is taking so long, just say, oh, great opportunity. And just notice the ground under your feet, notice the environment, and come bring yourself to now. With all these people jabbering, bring yourself into the noise. Be totally and utterly present. That's called absolute intrinsic awareness. Do that practice, everybody, 5 times a day, twice a day, 1 minute a day, wherever you are, in the car, when you're driving, anytime. That's how you start the practice. And once you do that, and you don't need the breath anymore, let's go to the next thing, which is shamatha without support. And I'm going to give you Keith Dowman's stuff of shamatha without support. So you may sit down in meditation. Tulku Urgent says you may be walking around. It doesn't really matter. You do it wherever you are. So just bring yourself to the present. Don't focus on the breath. The breath is happening, but it's just natural to your body. You are totally relaxed. You are totally at ease. Now, what is shamatha without support? I'm not going to talk you through. I'm just going to give you a couple of a couple of guidelines, and then you just sit. Those of you that need the breath, come back to the breath. It doesn't really matter, or whatever support you're using. But I'm going to give you some of his guidelines. Watching the nature of mind. Relaxing into the natural state of being. Bringing the mind back home. Resting in the pure, clear light. Resting, relaxing, doing nothing. Being the awareness. No fabrications of body, speech, or mind. No accepting. No rejecting. No approval or denial. No intention. No goal. Letting it be just as it is. This is quiet, but you can do it in the middle of a busy shopping center. Hanging loosely, non-action, doing nothing. Not long, and you can do it wherever you are. Just stop for a moment. Gather yourself together and do it lots of times in the day. And then what does he say about Vipassana? What is Vipassana? Now, when you go to extraordinary Vipassana, not the ordinary Vipassana, let's do the ordinary Vipassana, okay, which is really important. And you can go over all of these in your own time. If you get the recording, it's there, you know, you can do it. But let's do the normal Vipassana that they do in a lot of the things. Let's just do that. Okay. So you've been sitting for a few minutes, and now you're looking. What does looking mean? You can have your eyes wide open because you're noticing what the mind is doing. You're watching your thoughts. I just had a thought, they're all tired, it's late at night, it's late for them. You know, I want to do this, but you're all tired and it's late. I had that thought, okay? You look at that thought. What is the source of this thought? What's its nature? Where does it dissolve? What's this feeling that I've had all day? Been so cross and irritable today. Does it have a shape? You're looking at it. Does it have a color? is it me? Where does it go to? Where does it come from? What is it? Look at the nature of your thought when it's fully arisen. This anger, is it red? Is it black? Is it me? Where does it come from? Where does it go to? You ask yourself these questions and you look deeply, deeply, and you try and give yourself the answer to these questions. But there isn't an answer. That's how regular Vipassana is done. And you can practice it. All of you can practice it. You just look into the mind after you've done a little bit of calm abiding, and then you're looking. Because actually you're beginning to see that, hang on, this frustration that I've been feeling all day, but does it have a shape? Well, it seems to, but then it changes. Does it have a color? Well, it looks dark, but is it really? I'm looking at it. You go on and on and on. What's happening is that everything is just dissolving because none of it had any substance. That's the regular way of doing Vipassana. I don't like that. I can't stand doing that, okay? But I'm teaching it because some of you may really like to do it, and I'm extremely happy if you do want to do it. You do it like that. You go on and on looking at yourself. But I have a beautiful teaching from, let me just stop for the moment. Maybe somebody wants to say something or ask something or tell me how they feel or anything. Anyone?
I have a question.
Please, Tatiana.
Recently, I found out a text from, it's called Analytical Meditation from Mifan Rinpoche. What you just explained, is that what it is, this analytical meditation? Vipassana.
What you learned, what did you learn from him? I mean, what was he doing, that analyzing of the mind?
Yes, so you look at different topics. Yes, I can share the text. It's on the Lotsawa house.
Okay,
and I found a commentary from Jigo Rinpoche on it. I haven't read it yet, but
okay, but that's good. And the thing is that you know these things are not strict. They just, all they are to get you to understand the emptiness of your mind and the non-substance and the temporary nature of all these things that come out of your mind. Like we think, I'm so ugly when I'm angry. You just look at a statement like that. I'm so ugly when I'm angry. I don't want to be angry anymore. Well, if something makes you angry, it makes you angry. But if you look with intrinsic awareness at the nature of anger, you see that it hasn't got substance. It actually isn't you. It's something that comes out of the essence. Therefore, if it comes out of the essence, isn't it the same nature as the essence, which is empty? And it's actually wisdom when you turn it around. So if you look long at it, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're frustrated, whatever you are, if you look long enough, it starts to transform. And you see, this is just like a mirror that's showing me, this is something that is equalizing my life. This is something that is helping me to discern. You see it, and gradually, once you see it, but it takes time to do it, okay? And it doesn't really matter, even if you come to that awareness, as they say with non-meditation, and you apply it in your daily life. I keep applying it. I keep on walking around and applying what I'm learning in my daily life, not only what I'm learning in my shrine room, when I'm sitting here, but what I'm learning in my daily life. Like I look at people in London, we're going through that time of of moving out of our house and changing a lot of things and everything. So we're going through a lot of change. And our children were all, you must do this, you mustn't do that, you must do this, you mustn't do that. You know, sometimes I felt like I'm being bombarded by them. I thought, how did we bring them up to be these grown-ups who then dictate to you as though you were absolutely unable to make a decision for yourself? You know, nobody says, how do you feel, Mom? What would you like? You know, they just tell you, don't do this, don't do that, do this. You know, they've got all the advice in the world. Now, when that happens, I know that I would have gone ballistic in the past. Okay, I would have gone ballistic. I would have started ranting and raving back and saying, you can't listen to me, blah, blah, blah. But instead, I sit with it when I'm in meditation and I hear them saying, don't do this, go here, don't do that, you know, all these things. And then I'm looking at, what is this? What is this? What am I looking at? What is this mirror showing me? How can I respond in a different way? How can I be completely different to this? That's what my meditation is for. It's, if you understand this, it's about being in the world and learning to look at things very, very deeply in a focused way, and then realizing this is actually not substantial. These are just thoughts and feelings. And if you look at them, what are you learning from them? What are they doing to you? How is that feeling that you're feeling inside you that is really, you know, challenged by what they're saying? It's really important. Okay, that's lovely. I'll see what your file is. But you know what? I really want you to understand this. Any other questions? Because I want to take this further. I want to go to Taisitu's teaching on Vipassana. It's so clear. And I want to go to it. I've got it here for you, but I don't want to start it when you're all tired and everything. I want you to be fresh. What else do you want to know or feel? And then we're going to do, we can do it next week, even before we do the speech and art. I've got some beautiful, beautiful meditation, one called the 4 modes of resting freely, which are really helpful when you want to learn to be able to be in that non-meditative state. It's really important. That's a very important one. And I think also Guru Rinpoche's instruction to Yeshe Tsogyal, his disciple, when he said to her, let me get that page quickly. 46. He said to her, no, it's not there. 1 second, I had it written down. Okay. This is what he said to her. Then the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal requested her master, Padmasambhava, to give her simple instructions that condense the teaching into easy practice. The Guru said, just this, do it, all of you, be in your state of meditation, leave your eyes open. Let the body rest like a corpse without movement, relaxed and at ease. That's the essential point. He says there are many precepts concerning speech and energy, like binding the breath and reciting mantras, but just be silent like a mute. Just be silent like a mute. That's the main thing. There are many key points of the mind to follow, like fixating the mind, relaxation, radiating, absorbing light, concentration. But just stay free and easy without trying to change anything, just resting naturally. That's the crucial instruction. So to put it in brief, let the body rest like a corpse without movement. Keep silent like a mute. Let the mind be, don't change a thing. Let pure presence shine unmodified, just as it is. Relax, at ease, hang loosely in the natural state. Now, think about that, everybody. The natural state. How come we don't know the natural state? We only know the state of agitation, of fighting, of striving, of intellectualizing, of analyzing. We don't know the natural state. That's what we're learning to all understand, the natural state of being. You know, all of you have met a person that you meet, and you meet them and you go, I loved meeting that person. I loved being in their presence. You know, it was like they understood what I was going through. It was such a beautiful thing. That's what we're doing it for. We're not doing it to become these yogis. Someone said to James Lowe, well, how would a yogi behave? He said, well, how would a yogi walk? Now, immediately we conjure up and think, how would a yogi walk? He says, if the yogi walked, he might walk very mindfully, slowly as he goes along the path. If he's got a sore ankle, he might limp along the path. If he's in a hurry, he might run along the path. He says, how does a yogi walk? He says, like a yogi. Okay. He just walks with awareness, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes in, sometimes out. He's just in touch with his sore foot, with his mindful walking, with whatever. We've got to get in touch. We are so out of touch. This comes on, we don't want to hear it. That comes on, we don't want to hear it. So let's do another session next time, and let's do Taisitu's Vipassana, okay? And let's do his Vipassana, and then let's do resting the mind in 4 states, which is really important. Anyone want to ask, and then we'll end for tonight. It is hard to do meditation sessions like when it's getting late at night and you've had a long day, some of you. You should do what I do. You just have a little cat nap, if you can, and then you're as wide awake and fresh as can be. But also in the meditation, you know, Tulku Urgyen uses Shor Shuk, the practice of sustaining freshness, and Nalbab, the practice of reviving from tiredness. So we'll look at those next week as well. Any questions, any comments, anything you want to know? Anyone?
So Mal, just to add that when I went on Lama Zongmo's retreat in Holy Isle, so we did a lot of sitting meditation. And of course, that island is very blessed. So for me, it was really beneficial. But we did, some of the sessions were very long, but then early on in the retreat, we would go do walking meditation as well. But then she would also, towards like the end of the meditation, we'd do Tonglen, which was also very helpful because then it freshens up your mind. And then
Tonglen's breathing in the pain.
the taking and standing. Yeah.
And breathing out light. So you do that. We can also do a little bit of that. But it was wonderful. You know, Kathy, I used to go to all these retreats and things like that. Not my own retreats. I'm talking about when I went, you know, like I once went with what's his name? I'll think of his name in a moment. But, you know, some of these retreats, you were asked, I remember at Sammy Ling when I was very new to it, we had to meditate sometimes for 2.5 hours in the same position.
Yeah.
Okay. By the end, You know, my knees were aching, my toes were aching.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, if he doesn't stop this, I'm going to scream. You know, I'm absolutely going to scream, because after you'd sat like that for 2.5 hours, my body couldn't sit like that, okay? But I once actually used a very interesting practice, because I thought, well, if the body is just composed of a whole lot of causes and effects, then surely if I'm in pain, I'm focusing on the pain. Let me just let the pain come up and let me be right in the pain. And really it went. That
Yes, it does. It does.
because the pain is only there because your mind says, this is painful. I can't sit for another minute. The minute you pull it in, you actually can. But I don't want to do that. I love the short non-meditation practices, which really make you aware and in touch and intrinsically aware. And I think those are wonderful. Just 2-minute exercises, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah, you do need to sit sometimes, but I'm sitting shorter and shorter, and I'm trying to apply it into my daily life. It's really important. Anyone have anything else they want to say? Well, let's dedicate, and you'll be very happy to know that Fiona wrote another translation of that dedication prayer, because both of us didn't like it. So she wrote it, and I think it's really beautiful. So tonight, we dedicate everything we've done to all sentient beings, and especially to all those that are going through intense suffering now. So through this merit of this time we've had together, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nipe dranam pamshene Jeganachi balak dropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. So if anybody